I was fascinated about this vodka company that is taking something that is seen as a negative and, in my opinion, making it into something positive. Share with us some more examples.
Yeah, and you know what I said in the beginning there, that there's lots of great examples happening here in Canada. There's a company in Calgary that has been able to create this with captured CO2, and this is
I can't
bar
see
soap.
it. Can you move it a little to the center? What do you got
There
there?
we go.
There we go.
Oh,
there we go.
This is bar soap. They've also created this product, which is a bottle of soap. And this was created by a company. It's called Clean O2. You can order these projects or these products online through Expedition Air is one company that's selling it. But the story behind that was, it was someone in the heating and ventilation business, and they realized that, you know, buildings they're burning natural gas to keep warm quite a bit in the winter, obviously. And the entrepreneur thought, well, wait a second, why don't we try and capture some of that CO2 that's going up into the atmosphere and mix it with, I believe it was potassium, to create a product that's used to help with the production of soap. So this is just one example from Calgary. Another company, we went and toured their facility. It's called Carbon Upcycling. And what they're doing is taking CO2 from a natural gas power plant, and they're mixing it with fly ash to create an additive for concrete or cement so that you can make concrete. And just recently, they were even pouring some foundations for homes using it. And ultimately what it does is you're able to reduce CO2 emissions, but at the same time, it actually makes the concrete stronger. So you're helping to improve the product.
So this is a company that's taking their own emissions and repurposing them, if you will.
Well, they've partnered up with a natural gas power plant in Calgary. And so what they do is together they're able to channel some of the CO2 from that power plant. This company, Carbon Upcycling, takes that CO2 and then they mix it with fly ash and they use it as an additive to make the concrete stronger. So a lot of these companies, they're still relatively small. But what I think we're seeing is positive growth. There's lots of signs that some of them are going to be taking off and expanding and expanding. And once you start to get scale, then I think you're going to see more and more CO2 being reduced on a much larger scale. So those are a couple examples from Calgary. There's a company from New York that's actually taking CO2 and making diamonds with it.
Diamonds.
So yeah, I mean, that one's just fascinating how they do it. But diamonds are ultimately made with carbon.
Right.
And they're able to take that carbon from the CO2, create diamonds. A company from Ontario, I love this example because I'm a big fan of M&Ms. But what they do is they take CO2 from a smokestack and they pump it into a tank. And in that tank is a bunch of algae. And the algae basically eat the CO2 and grow and keep expanding. And then they're able to process that algae into all kinds of things that are useful products, nutraceuticals. They're working on biofuels. They can create something called phycocyanin, which is it's an additive that helps make blue food coloring. Oh. And that blue food coloring is used in things like blue M&Ms.
Okay, so I can then eat copious amounts of blue M&Ms and not only say I'm making myself feel better, but I'm also doing my bit for the planet. Exactly,
and you wash it down with vodka, then you're gonna.
And then I'm really doing. I'm hitting everything out of the park. Good for me. My goodness,
exactly.
These are some excellent innovations. I didn't know these things were happening. How come we didn't know?
You know, I'm not sure exactly why. I don't think there's any kind of a conspiracy theory, but I think you see quite often politicians and governments, they're focusing in on the doom and gloom. We hear constantly that we're in a climate crisis. Then we see politicians do the opposite. You know, we just had 400 people or so go off to the recent big environmental conference in Glasgow, when obviously a lot of those people could have video conferenced. So if they're going to tell us that it's a crisis, I think they have to lead by example and say, hey, wait, we're going to video conference and send a much smaller Canadian delegation. That's another topic. But my point is that when you're saying it's a crisis, you have to lead by example. We hear them saying too that it's CO2 is pollution, when we're seeing entrepreneurs say, wait a second, that's not the way to look at this. Let's think of that as a product that we could use to create useful things for consumers. So I think really what we're seeing entrepreneurs leading to tackle this issue rather than, I'll say, narrow-minded, short-sighted politicians that I don't think understand how we're ultimately going to address
Right.
CO2 emissions as
No,
a
and I
country.
think you
And
bring
that's
up a great point. We have so many experts and so many great minds in this country. If we just let innovators do what they do best and support them, we could solve a lot of problems. Anyways, we got to go to commercial. We'll be right back.